I'm nervous. You guys are my first. You guys are my first like real interview.
Ooh.
Why are we laughing? Quiet on set.
Cut.
Welcome back to Little Miss Leadfoot. Today I'm here with Dennis Kohr. He's the owner of Kohr's Customs and also a very close friend of me and my dad. I've been racing with him since I was, very young.
I don't know,
I've known,
8, 9?
Yeah, I've known the Kohr family for a long time. So I'm excited to dive deep into his story and into how he found his Leadfoot and the experiences that he's had and what led him up to this point.
Live audience. We got a live audience.
Okay. So the first question I want to ask you is just to kind of like dig through your memory box and really go back into your childhood and tell us what made you want to get into racing and into cars? Like, what about it?
Well, I grew up in a car family. My grandfather worked at a Chrysler Plymouth dealership from 1940 up until he retired in 2000. And my dad also worked at the same dealership in Myerstown. My dad worked there during the muscle car era. And then my dad had a 68 GTX, and that's the car that I grew up in, you know, riding in the back seat. That's the car that we had. And I still have that car today. It's not done yet, but it will get done.
Is that one of your goals, is to get that done?
Yeah, I bought that car from my dad in 1984 when I was a junior in high school. And drove in high school, tore it all apart in like 86, right out of high school, and started restoring it to make this car perfect. And the joke was back then I just wasn't good enough. I had to hone my skill and get better. And now I got to get the car done before I'm too old to hold a paint gun.
Actually do it.
But that's the car that my mom had a 67 Satellite and dad had the 68 GTX. And I'm working at a Chrysler Plymouth dealership. Obviously, I was going to be a Mopar guy.
Right, of course.
And when racing, my dad had a drag car in the 70s, but also we had the Sox and Martin board game. And that's something that Sox and Martin put out in 68. And it was a drag racing board game. And going over to my grandmother's after school, that was my favorite toy to play with, was the drag racing game. So yes, I was just destined to race and restore cars.
That's really cool. What was the first car you restored by yourself?
I had a 67 Barracuda, and I say that's the first car I painted when I was about 15 at the time. Wow. And it was a 318 automatic, but I painted that car. And again, I thought it was a show car, but I'd be embarrassed to show anybody that car today.
Oh, we're going to show it, so be prepared. Kohr's Customs, how long has this business been
This
around?
is actually a 30th anniversary. This June will be 30 years that I've been, in business.
So you started it at what age?
I don't know. I'd have to do some math. 67 to 93, but yeah, I was in my 20s.
Okay.
And I was always doing this stuff. I mean, I worked in different body shops. There's a body shop right down the road here, Jim Glass Body Shop. I started working there when I was 16 because you have to be 16. I couldn't be 15. You had to be 16 years old. But started working there, and a couple of the guys there really taught me, how to do body and paint work. Now, my grandfather and my dad were mechanics, but I didn't like getting grease on my hands, so I wanted to be a body man. But yeah, and worked at a couple other shops, and always did work on the side, like in the evenings. Worked there full, do all day long, go home at night, work on other people's cars. But I wanted my own shop, and that's when we just took the leap. And my grandpa said, yeah, you're young. If you fail, you can just get a job. So that was 30 years ago. And
now here you are.
And we are very busy. For anybody that wants a car done, it's 2, 3, 4 years till we can get another car. And we just have a bunch of really good customers that keep bringing us cars to do.
To restore,
yeah.
So that leads me into the next question I have. So what has been the coolest restoration? Out of the 30 years, if you could just pick one restoration.
Yeah, I really love doing race cars, and we got to work on a lot of Hemi super stock cars. When Ray Barton was building the motors, we got to paint a lot of, I wouldn't call them restorations though, they were fancy paint jobs. My one customer has a 70 Superbird, and it's a petty blue Superbird. And being a big drag racing fan, but also being a big Richard Petty fan, getting to restore that Superbird And that car's a good calling card for me because that car's been done for over 20 years now, and he still wins at the shows he takes it to. And I had the opportunity not to give a full restoration, but to work on a 70 Hemi Cuda convertible. And this was in 1999. He bought it at an auction, paid $275,000 for this car in 1999, which everybody's like, that's an insane amount of money. In 2006, sold at Barrett-Jackson for $2.2 million. So I can say I literally had...
So it went from 200
to 2 million.
2 million.
In a couple of years.
That's really cool.
But yeah, that's one of the neater cars I've worked on also.
That's really, really cool. So that leads me into my next question.
You have a lot of questions.
I do have a lot of questions. I got to get to know you.
Yeah, okay.
How did you get into racing? What age were you when you first started? My
dad and a coworker of his, they built a race car, and it was around 1977, so I would have been 10 years old. And it was I remember we went to the junkyard. He found the 63 Plymouth. We drug it home and made a cheap race car. There was a 69 GTX that another coworker had that got sideswiped, so they pulled the 440 out of that and put it in. And the funny part is, I think they raced it at York, but I was so young I don't quite remember. I know they raced it at Maple Grove. But then circumstances, they sold that around 1980 or so is when they sold that car. But I always wanted to race. Mm-hmm. And the 67 Barracuda I painted when I was 16, I went down to Maple Grove to race it. It was going to be the first time racing. Went to change the rear tires and broke a lug stud off. So when I went through tech, they wouldn't let me race because there was a stud busted off. So you say, you're disappointed, but you just learn. It's all learning curves.
It's learning
but yeah, just the other thing, and I gotta say, my uncle Harvey has always raced. Was a big racer, Ford guy, But anyhow, it's my mom's brother. It wasn't any relation from my dad's. But he's always raced from forever. I always knows Uncle Harvey. Uncle Harvey was never around the weekends because he was always at the racetrack.
Yep.
So yeah, and so I had a family of racing. We were just always grew up around racing.
Grew up around it.
Yeah, always grew up around racing. And that's what muscle cars are. Any muscle car is a race car, So, that's why I like restoring them, and I really like, working on the race car end of the muscle cars.
Because you rather just, we were talking about this before, even before the interview, but you like the race end of it rather than the car show end of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Could you elaborate?
I like the excitement.
Yeah.
I love the excitement. Car shows, and again, we work on the cars every day, so to go to a car show, it's like, well, they're sitting in the garage,
Right.
But when you're at the track, it's just, the tire smoke, the noise. The thing and I love about racing is the tightness. We're talking thousandths of a second.
Yep. Even now that it's starting to go to 8th mile racing, like bracket racing, I went to the track this summer and oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It like tight races, like to the thou, insane.
Yes.
Like crazy.
And I know a lot of the Northerners don't like quarter mile racing, but don't like 8th mile racing. I personally love 8th mile racing. It's so tight. Everything happens so fast. You got to be on your game at the starting line, the middle of the track, and you got to know exactly where that finish line is.
When I first heard that we were going to 8th mile, I was kind of upset about it because, I wanted to race the quarter because there is so much play. You can have so much play because you have that extra 8th. But now that I went to see the 8th mile racing, the competition is just like anything could happen and like
and it's funny because I grew up on quarter mile racing and the junior dragsters, all that was 8th mile racing. So the boys, the kids are used to 8th mile racing, but me, I'm a quarter mile racer. So then we actually spent 2 seasons racing 8th mile at our home track. We also do some stock and super stock stuff. So I'm in the Super B and we're at a super stock race. And I get to the 8th mile, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got to go all the way down there yet. The motor's at 7,500 screaming, and it's taken forever to get to the finish line. Where, like you said, there's more playing and stuff, but you have more time to think. You have more time to make mistakes.
you do.
8th mile, you can't think.
Oh, no,
you got to react.
You have to just do
Yep,
it.
you got to just do it.
It definitely takes a lot more talent too, in
I
a
think
sense
so. Yeah.
of that, because that's why I'm like excited to get back out there and like start racing, because I know I'm gonna have like a huge learning curve. Because like if you think about it, in the junior, the 8th felt like the quarter in a big car.
Yeah.
So like we in the 8th we did have that play. Like I was used to being able to like lay on that brake, you know, like I was able to like drag them down the track in a sense.
Exactly.
But in the 8th, like you kind of just have to stay in it and hope for the best. Like hope for the best. So
faster cars, yeah, you almost got to dial that you're not going to break out.
exactly. Like holding, I feel, is definitely
it's a lot harder. It's going to take a while to get used to doing that.
Oh, for sure. And I know even in the big cars going faster, you don't want to hit that brake either.
No.
You don't want to lock up the tires.
No.
So
Don't
there's
wanna
like
crash.
there's no room to do that in the like there was in the junior.
Right.
So that's going to be definitely interesting for me when I get back into racing, and
Exactly.
definitely a learning curve for sure. If you want to talk about it, I know this might not be a no say sort of thing in the racing world, but if we want to talk about racing strategy, we can.
The only thing I could tell you is, I mean, these kids already know all that stuff, but everybody has their own strategy.
Yeah.
First of all, you've got to be able to hit the tree. I mean, I'm not saying you got to be 00, but you got to be teens.
Right.
But everybody has their own strategy. Some guys will hold 4-5. Some guys will dial totally honest. And our strategy is we change it up all the time, so you never know what we're doing.
What you're doing.
That worked in the junior dragsters. One weekend they're running 8.0s.
Yeah, Kevin would always give me a run for my money.
Yep. Well, they're either running 8.0s. Next weekend they're going 790s. It's like, what are they doing?
Yeah, where are they in the
But you
dial?
gotta. That's my strategy, is so you never know exactly what we're doing.
I was always taught, get on the tree, run the number. That's it. That's all you got to do.
and that works, but it doesn't work all the time.
True. You're right. You're right.
A lot of your good racers are holding, 4-5.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're holding the 10th, but they're holding some. You're good racers. So they have a plan at the finish. And that's what you got to have a plan at the starting line. You got to have a plan in the middle and a plan at the end. There's so much to do in that, 5-6 seconds.
That's why I like bracket racing a lot better.
Bracket racing,
it's just more strategy to it.
What I love about bracket racing, you can be very poor and still be able to have a competitive car. In the super stock world, we could never run the Hemi super stock car because those guys are spending $150,000 on a motor. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's a heads up type thing. And even in the class that I'm in, it'd be tough for me to be the number one guy as far as the car being the fastest. It just costs a fortune. Bracket racing, you could race, your mom's minivan and still be competitive.
Yeah, I race my dad's van. So.
And that's why I love bracket racing, because it doesn't take a whole lot of money. It takes more talent than it does money.
Right, and that's what, in a sense of like, what at least like I want to do is like share to people that bracket racing, take it to the track. Don't take it to the highway. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen it, and it's just
growing up,
safer.
We have a 4-lane highway out here, and growing up, there's no traffic on this 4-lane highway. Well, at night, lots of people are racing out there, and my buddies would always say, why ain't you coming out? It's like, nope, been there, done that, I'm not doing that.
Yep.
On the track, it's safe on the track. You don't have to worry about a car pulling out or anything. Yep. The biggest thing at New Media, you might have to worry about a deer. But it's just so much safer at the track. Yeah. And I don't like street racing.
Yeah.
I really don't like street racing. It gives us drag racers a bad name. Because as soon as there's an accident on the news, they were drag racing. No, they were street racing.
Yep.
They were not drag racers.
That's what it is. Yep, that's what it is. And they think that it's cool to like go in and out of traffic and just like
that's not drag racing.
And get into accidents with like just civilians that are just trying to get from point A to point B on their daily route, and just take it to the track.
Yeah, take it to the track.
And it's more fun that way, in my opinion.
It is. I mean, when we used to race juniors and go down to Bristol for the Eastern Conference Finals, I called that a big social event for the kids, because you'd make 2 passes and the kids just run around and play. Well, that's kind of what it is at the track too. I mean, it's a social event. We are very serious. We want to win, but we're also there having fun, and it is a social event. That's why the track is so much better than racing, on the street, because it's just better.
It is, and like even the junior community, like I miss that a lot, just because like we were competitors, but like if I broke something on my junior, like you'd
It's in the
hand it
trailer,
over.
go grab it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So like everyone was there to help each other
And
out.
that's just drag racing. I've never been to a race where if somebody broke, there wasn't 10 people there to help them.
Right. Yep.
Because we want to win. And the boys have done this many times in juniors and in big cars where our opponent broke in the water box. Hey, we'll sit there and wait till you fix it. I'll help
That's
you
awesome.
fix it because we want to beat you on the track,
Yeah.
not in the pits.
We want you at your best.
Yeah,
We want
because
the
we want to beat you.
top-notch.
Yeah, we want to beat you.
Exactly.
I mean, that's plain and simple.
Yep.
But if you win, if you got a broken by, well, that's no fun.
Yeah.
That's like a letdown. It's like, why even go down the track?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. So I definitely agree with you. Like the community as a whole is just like very there for you and it's fun. Like you're in it to race and to win, but after the fact, it's just like you talk, you make fun of like whatever happened that day.
You were 40 on the tree? Yeah, we're going to make fun of you.
Yeah, exactly. So I really, I miss it, honestly, and I can't wait to get back in it. What made you want your kids to get into racing? Because I know you grew up around racing, so did you want them to also? I
totally left it up to them. One of my good friends is a dirt tracker, and it was funny because his son Richie and Kyle. Richie's like 6 months older than Kyle, so they grew up together. And Richie had his quarter midget here. I think he was 6 years old, and Kyle was making laps in the yard with it. So it's like, do you want to do that? But going to the drags all the time, we never saw a whole lot of junior dragsters because we were doing a lot. I used to do like a lot of just Chrysler Classic events, Mopar National, stuff like that. But there was always like one or two junior dragsters, and like we did with everybody, Kyle's 4 or 5 years old, and the kids are putting him in the car, so he gets to sit in it. So when he turned 8, I found a junior dragster, which we still have today. It was an old car because I knew nothing about juniors, but we had a lot of fun. And then he raced that one, and then next year we got him a better car, and we were pretty competitive. And then Kevin, my youngest one, obviously he wanted to do the same thing.
Yep.
But what's funny is Kyle's junior dragster I painted up like a Top Fuel, a front engine dragster. And I wanted to do Kevin's the same way. Oh, Kevin wanted nothing about that. He wanted nothing. I want to do his the same way, but green. But nope, he had his own paint scheme to do. But yeah, then I love the junior dragster days because it got them into racing, but it really kept kids out of trouble. It just keeps them out of trouble because they're at the track and they're hanging out with 30 other kids, but nobody's causing any problems. They're all good kids.
Right.
Except for there's a Melissa Wilson. She used to, she was a bad kid. But other than that, everybody else was good kids. We don't need to talk
about it,
okay?
Yeah. Okay. What was the coolest race that you ever experienced? Coolest race you've won? Any like scary moments in racing that you've ever experienced?
Me personally,
Yes.
Winning in Bowling Green, Kentucky, they have the Holly Hot Rod Reunion, and I think that started in 2003. I won it in 2005, so it was a pretty big deal to win, a big nostalgia race like that. But by far, to date, the coolest race was when Kyle won 4 wide in a stock eliminator car in Charlotte, North Carolina. For the first NHRA national event win. That was probably the coolest race. Because it's a NHRA national event,
right? Yeah.
And he won. So
That's
that
really
was
cool.
That was really cool. Our home track, Kevin won the high school challenge for the divisional in a 69 dart. Mike Mackey won street in a 69 dart, and Butch Weinrich won pro in a 69 dart.
Wow.
The only winners that year in Division 1 was a dragster that won Super Pro, but everything else was 69 dart.
That's
so that
crazy.
Was, it
was
really cool.
What a coincidence, huh?
It was kind of,
Yeah, that is really cool. Yeah. Good for the 69 dart.
Yeah, I think that was 2018, 2017. Yeah, 2017. But
That's
yeah,
really
there's been so many. I mean, because Kyle won the junior race at Bristol, Tennessee.
That's awesome.
They all won. Both of them won a lot of races. They won a lot more than I ever will.
Yeah.
But yeah, for my big event, I'm going to say it was the Holly Hot Rod Reunion for me.
That's awesome. So most of your racing experience also stems from watching your watching your kids
Yes.
race and like seeing them accomplish a lot
Right.
in the racing world too.
I'm pretty fortunate. At least
Yeah.
all my buddies say I'm really lucky because my kids are working in a shop with me. I'm around them all the time. It's like, you call that lucky? But anyhow, yeah, you want your kids to do so much better than you've ever done. So we try to give them good equipment so that they can win. But yeah, if it came down to, me and Kevin in the finals, I'd be so happy if he won. But I want to beat him. But yeah, I want to beat him. But
No,
I'd be really happy, So yeah, and if Kevin's racing you, I want Kevin to win.
Of course,
but I wouldn't be upset if you won.
Yeah.
But no, you always want your kids to do better.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So we do bend over backwards to give them, good equipment. And that's a lot of it. In racing, you got to have good equipment.
Right. I think juniors is a very good step into the racing world in a sense, because I always see no one really knows about junior dragsters. Because, when I was in juniors and I would tell people, oh, I'm in junior dragsters, they're like, what's that?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, is it like go-karting? And it's like, no, not really.
And I hate saying, NHRA, they do an okay job advertising, but they could do better.
Yeah.
And the other great program is Junior Street. My nephew's in Junior Street right now. And again, they can be racing their mom's minivan in Junior Street. You don't need a race car.
No.
So it costs no money. At Junior Dragster, when we were doing it, you can get, $5-8 grand tied up in a junior real easily. Now even more. But Junior Street, there's no money involved. It's you drive it there, race it all day, and drive it back home, and then use it to drive to work all week long.
Yep.
And I just wish NHRA would push it a little bit harder.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like getting more kids into the sport.
And it keeps the kids out of trouble.
Yeah.
And again, you need no money. Entry fee, $20, and you can race all day long.
Yep. Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun, and I'm sure Kevin and Kyle feel the same way about juniors. And I do miss it, but I'm ready to get.
You'll
back
always
in
miss it because it's a lot of fun, and you'll see me Saturday morning up early, watching the juniors, helping them out. I do that every year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because especially parents that just started, because we knew nothing about juniors, and I always say, by the time your kid graduates out, that's when you finally know about them.
Yeah.
So it's nice helping out the other kids doing it.
I agree. I think when I first started, obviously I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing. I think my dad was the only one that really kind of knew. I just was told to get in the car and hit the gas pedal.
Yep.
That's it. And just having those people there around just to help and tell me what to do. I didn't know how to stage for the longest time.
It takes a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And the big benefit now when you hop in your dragster, you have all that experience.
Yep.
So you're not starting fresh.
Yes.
You have all that experience.
Exactly.
So the learning curve is going to be so much shorter, when you're in your dragster.
Exactly. Yep.
If the body shop ever gets it painted.
Yeah, that's on you though. Yeah. So we're waiting
on
you.
I'll blame that on the kids.
Your course custom, I was told.
No, they're part of it now too.
Who's gonna take over? Both?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Next week.
Next week when they paint my
when
body.
they paint your dragster.
Yeah, wonderful. Great.
But yeah,
so
it'd
have scratches.
It'd be great if they took over because everything will be paid for, so they'll actually be able to make some money. Because that's sort of my joke. I'm not going to die a millionaire doing this, but it's a lot of fun.
Right.
Working on muscle cars, race cars for a living.
You're doing what you love.
Oh yeah, and it's so much fun. And again, I could make a lot more money doing collision work, but who wants to work on a Toyota and a Honda?
Right, you're working on race cars.
Yeah.
You're building race cars.
When people come in here, it's kind of funny, the different salesmen or different delivery guys, they don't just come in here for 2 minutes. It's like a half an hour. Look at this car, look at that car, and just drooling over them.
Yep, that's really cool. And I think that's something that a lot of people aspire to do, even just outside of the racing community. We're talking general here, but to find something that they love to do.
Because they say, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's the way, it's honestly true.
Yeah.
This time of year, we're getting itching to go racing because it's March and we want to go racing.
It's race season. It's coming up.
It's funny because I love doing this stuff, but I can't wait to leave Friday, 3 o'clock to go to the track.
Go to the track,
Even though we love doing this stuff.
That's always so much fun. And even getting into the motorhome and driving down to the track, you just know it's race season.
Yep.
You know the smell of spring? Mm-hmm. You know that smell?
Yep.
I smelt it the other day and I was like, this would be the time that I would be getting ready for race season. And I am getting ready for race season this year.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
It's crazy.
It'll be fun.
My last question for you is, do you think you found your Leadfoot in life?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I found that probably at a young age with, you know, the racing and working on the cars. But, yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah.
What
no
do you
doubt.
think a Leadfoot is?
That's a really tough question. I'm going to say it's something you just love to do because, I mean, we work on these cars full throttle. So I just think it's something you love to do.
Right.
So I would say that's a Leadfoot.
Yeah, something you don't give up on.
Yeah.
And something you just always want to strive to do.
Yeah.
And what you're doing with Kohr's Customs.
Exactly.
That's awesome. All right, thank you so much for tuning in to watching Dennis Kohr. It's definitely an honor to really dive deep into his experiences and the opportunities he's had in life and knowing how he found his Leadfoot. To become a feature, go to littlemiss.leadfoot.com. I would love to interview anyone and share to the world people's stories and experiences that go untold. And to see Dennis Kohr's interview, go to Little Miss Leadfoot on YouTube and stay tuned for more to come. And that's it. I still don't know how to figure out how to close this thing out.
Thank you.
See you in the lanes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put
See
this
you in
in
the burnout
here.
box.
I'm putting this in here because I don't know how to close it and I'm going to keep it unique.
See you in the burnout
See
box.
you in the lanes.